We're compelled to pay attention to what daffy politicians in New York do because they're bound to be picked up by by daffy politicians in Illinois, be bound to be mimicked by daffy politicians in Illinois. Kathy Hochul. When last we checked in with Kathy Hochul, she was explaining government math to us, how reducing the imposition of a congestion tax that currently doesn't exist, but reducing the proposed tax by a certain percentage is actually a savings for people who are not paying any tax, any congestion tax at the moment.
It is my job to make decisions that take into account the needs of all working New Yorkers. So I made the decision to put the congestion pricing program on pause while we devise a different path forward. State law requires that congestion pricing simultaneously raise money for the MTA and drive down traffic congestion. These are important priorities. But I believe that no New Yorker should have to pay a penny more than absolutely necessary to achieve these goals.
Here we go. Wait for
and $15 was too much. And I'm proud to announce we have found a path to fund the MTA, reduce congestion, and keep millions of dollars in the pockets of our commuters. Under this plan, the MTA will implement a congestion pricing plan with a reduced daytime toll of $9 beginning in January. You heard that correctly. It was $15 before,
I'm your hero.
And now it is $9. That is a 40% reduction. This lower toll will save daily commuters nearly $1,500 annually. And that kind of money makes a big difference for our families.
She just saved you 40% off of a tax you're not currently paying by imposing So that's one. So that's Kathy Hochul. So now that's still not good enough. So because she's up for re-election in 2026, just as Jelly Belly is. So pay particular attention to what comes next. Now it's time to close the show with the inflation refund checks, which she unveiled quite literally, the novelty checks for the press. Inflation refund checks unveiled yesterday by Kathy Hochul to address the $9 congestion tax, largely, which was already a cost savings, according to her.
In my budget next month, they will send you a check to buy your groceries for a month or whatever you want to spend it on. And if you're an individual earning up to $150,000 a year, it's $300. What does that look like?
What does
Feels
it look
a
like?
big check that says it's written out for $300.
Oh, the seals applaud.
Chalkboard-sized check.
Harumph.
If you're filing jointly,
You're Dan. Wait for
and
it.
you have a family,
And
you need a little more, right?
we need more.
Families are expensive.
Oh, they are.
How about this?
Oh, come on. Bring it.
$500.
Wow!
$500
Where do I touch myself first?
for families earning less than $300,000 because I know life in New York City is expensive and your salaries may sound nice, but they don't go very far.
So my $300,000 salary doesn't go far, but that $500, that's a real difference maker.
She's got my vote come the next re-election.
Lord,
And then she
Lord.
unveiled the chalkboard-sized check written out to Jane Doe for $500. Oh my God!
I mean, and the infantilization, of course, which is always a feature of the way the left talks to people. Patronizing or shaming. Those are your two options. So this is patronizing. Well, I'm paying $5,000 for a 900 square foot apartment in Manhattan. I make $150,000, but I get $300 back while I'm paying $9 a day on your congestion tax. Okay. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Michael Goodwin. He's a columnist for the New York Post. Michael, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys.
I would think a city, and to a lesser extent a state, that has the appropriate level of cynicism when it comes to the human condition, and particularly the human condition in New York, would tire of Kathy Hochul very quickly.
You would think so. And many of us reached that point long ago. The congestion pricing. I haven't done the math yet, but I'm not sure how many weeks of free congestion pricing I now get thanks to my once in a lifetime check from our dear leader. It is extraordinary that the first part about the 40% savings. I mean, it's one of those moments where the top of your head just wants to come off. I can't contain this, right? It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. I mean, it's a kind of tragic humor that either she's stupid or she thinks we're that stupid. But either way, it's not a flattering moment. And there's a new poll out this morning. I guess maybe she saw this coming. That's why she wanted to get ahead of it. But she's just got, plunging approval ratings. I think something like 57% of the state says they want someone new. I mean, she's just rock bottom. I mean, the congestion pricing is wildly unpopular. So I don't get it. It's almost like she's got a death wish when it comes to her policies.
Well, she said it's a state law, though. Is that true? Like, she has to do this. She doesn't want to, but it's a state law, so she's got to follow the rules.
The congestion pricing?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. The way she changed the number, she could have made the number zero. She did this. She authorized this. The MTA, she controls it. There are, suburban members on the board, but she controls the board. And of course, she controls the state budget. And what she did was say, we can't get enough funding for the MTA despite the $237 billion state budget. So therefore, we've got to find some way to fund their capital projects. And so that gave rise to congestion pricing. The sneaky side of all of this is that we are now in our third generation of traffic commissioners in New York City who want to do away with cars completely, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep shrinking the roadways with bicycle, city bike, the rent a bike.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing here.
Yeah. Yes, and they take up enormous amounts of street space. You had the dining sheds, which stayed around well after COVID. You have all these pedestrian plazas, the bike lanes, which will often take a 4-lane road and make it a 2-lane road. So they have royally screwed up traffic patterns. One of the big issues is double parking by delivery trucks. They just give them a ticket, and then at the end of the year, they bargain away half the tickets. So there's no incentive, no idea. They don't time the traffic lights to keep traffic moving. They talk about pollution, but the slower your car goes, the more it pollutes, the more gasoline it uses per mile. So there's just no thought to this. It's, as you said earlier, it's just an agenda. It's just a bunch of far lefties wanting to be Europe, wanting to have bicycles instead of cars and pretend they're in some kind of leafy little thing. Meanwhile, you go outside the city, and all of the roadways are congested. I mean, the population in the suburbs has boomed, and the mass transit system can't keep up. The quality of it continues to decline, and so they keep just trying to keep the grift going for another 60 days, another year, another 2 years, without ever really taking on some of these issues and some of these far-left agendas that are really just making it difficult to live and work and get around in New York.
Is Eric Adams providing Trump with a real opportunity to make a big blue city play? Eric Adams, moving off of the sanctuary city business, upcoming meeting with Tom Homan, talking about a weaponized justice system, basically arguing before the jury verdict that Daniel Penny should be acquitted. Is there an opportunity for a partnership between Eric Adams and Donald Trump, even if it's a transactional one, that could serve the interests of both and provide maybe a blueprint for other Republican incursions into big blue cities?
Yes, I think there is an opportunity. I don't know whether it could lead to a revival of the Republican Party, but I think a moderate Democrat is more likely in this era. I mean, Trump has talked about killing congestion pricing. So that's the kind of thing that would make him extremely popular in New York. And it's interesting, I think a lot of people don't just look at Trump as a Republican. Trump is different, right? He's just different. And the Democrats, of course, the official Democratic Party has tried to paint him as this, Republican Grinch. But in fact, I think the votes that he got this time, in Manhattan, for example, Donald Trump got 30%. Now, that was double what he got in 2020. But I think the reality of it is that wasn't so much him getting more votes. It was that fewer people voted for Kamala Harris than voted for Joe Biden. That was true in the city, true across the state. So it was somewhat misleading because the turnout is so low in New York, and it was historically low in this presidential election. It's in the mayoral races, it's often 25%. In some city council races, it's 10%.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an untapped voter that I don't believe is subject to the Republican appeal as much as it would be to a moderate Democrat appeal.
What about Alvin Bragg's future after Daniel Penny's acquittal? Is he in electoral jeopardy?
I would hope so, but I'm afraid I don't see it yet. He does have an opponent already, a Republican opponent, a woman named Maud Maron, and she's well equipped, I think, to give him a race. But then again, the numbers make it very difficult. And this case now of the CEO shooter is coming up. Mm-hmm. This happened in Manhattan. This is the Manhattan District Attorney's case. Unless the feds take it over, I'm hoping they do, because New York does not have a death penalty. Now, if this isn't a death penalty eligible case, what would be? And the feds have done this before. They've taken over other state cases. So, look, Bragg is a disaster. He's not the only one. He's the high-profile one because he's in Manhattan, and that's where a lot of these crimes not only take place but get the most attention. And he just appears to be immovable. He does not give ground. I mean, the Trump case is a notorious example of he just makes it up as he goes along. The judiciary is thoroughly corrupted by politics, and so there's no real out. And so when I first read and then heard Hochul's Hochul's hokum, the Christmas gift that she's promising, I mean, it's like, I got to get out of here. I mean, that was my first reaction. This is insane. Exactly. This is insane. These are toddlers, right? I mean, These are idiots.
Right. Yes.
I don't know what we do here. It is a hopeful moment nationally and really internationally, But in New York, Eric Adams is the only vehicle who's making any sense at all. And unfortunately, I think it's mostly because he's in trouble and he's looking for a lifeline. But, you know, worse things have happened. And I do think that he and Trump are establishing a relationship that Hochul and Trump are probably not going to.
Michael Goodwin, columnist for the New York Post. Michael, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Sean Thompson here to tell you about our 2024 Food for the Poor campaign. We've partnered with Food for the Poor once again to provide life-saving food for thousands of children and their families in Latin America and the Caribbean. We're talking about a part of the world that continues to suffer from the effects of economic destruction and decline, political corruption, instability, gangs, high prices for food. Families are